Welcome back, everyone. Today we're moving from the look of your business or the logic of it, right, when we were designing the event planning HQ in last class, to more focusing on Canva Sheets for client and vendor management, turning ultimately Canva into your operational powerhouse. All right. So last week, before we dive into today's new material, let's quickly, recap what we've been doing for the last week. So we set the stage by covering how your Canva workspace is structured and how to keep it organized, the template philosophy, right? Why you should never start from scratch, ultimately building templates to then duplicate for active events, right? Establishing your brand foundations, and ultimately seeing how Canva can be used as the infrastructure of your business and not just a design tool. If you want to see last week's video, there should be a little card or animation to see, but it is just class one of, it's called class one event planning HQ. All right. So let's keep going, right? So today on the agenda, we got a couple things. So first is what Canva Sheets are. So basically defining the tool. We're going to look at when planners use them. So identifying the right moments in your workflow. We're going to look at core sheets planners needed. So the essential trackers for your toolkit. How sheets connect to your HQ, right? So ensuring your data lives in the right place. And what we are building today. So our specific hands-on goals that we're going to be covering, right? And so we got two more classes coming up. So design proofs, comments, and approvals. And finally, using Canva for marketing and social content, specifically as an event planner, right? Ignore these dates and times. This is obviously going to change for our live events, but for your sake, listening to these videos, this is what you should be expecting here shortly, all right? So the problems, right? So why are we doing this? And put simply, because most planners are struggling with information scatter, right? So client info is in emails, vendor details are in text, and budgets are in a random notebook, right? So we are here to create a single source of truth so you can stop hunting for information and ultimately start planning, right? So we need to stop seeing Canva as just a place to make flyers, right? Because it can create beautiful designs. Again, it's user friendly, it's collaboration friendly, right? But it is a data and document workspace, right? This is where we're going to be building these sheets, right? Canva does have the ability to create sheets, which are typically like Excel workbooks, very similar, right? But we're going to reframe Canva's role, and ultimately, by using these Canva sheets, by using these templates, we're going to be using Canva as a central hub for all of your event assets. So you can replace several different tools with just one, streamline your entire operation, which was the original intent of this series of classes, right? And Canva Sheets, you will find out, will be replacing Excel and many other Excel-like programs out there. All right. So first up, what is Canva Sheets, right? What does it mean? Well, let's define the terms. Canva Sheets are structured tables that live right inside your designs, right? So actually what's cool is you can create these Excel sheets and embed your Canva-based projects into them. And I'll show you that in our live hands-on a demo, all right? More importantly, they will allow you to track information visually, which is, I believe, how most planners' brains actually work, right? And the great thing is, just like everything in Canva, they are collaborative and, most importantly, connected to your wider event ecosystem that we are creating, right? So the scope of today's build, right? So what are the different sheets that we're going to be getting and building on? So we're going to be constructing a client tracking system, a vendor management hub, a budget overview, and how this is overall going to be connecting to the HQ folder, right? And the folders we created last week, or last video, I should say. So as a reminder, right, sheets equals systems. So sheets aren't just limited to spreadsheets. They could mean documents as well. But think of these as your systems, your highways, if you will, right? I like to say these are containers for decision making. And the goal is to build them once and reuse them for every single event, just like what we did last week. Right? We want clarity, not complexity. Keep it simple enough that you'll actually use it, right? You might be asking, well, what are the difference between docs and Canva Sheets, right? Because I heard you can do docs in Canva as well, right? And so we're going to be exploring how Canva Sheets and docs aren't supposed to be pitted as different to each other, but more complements to each other in event planning, right? Docs, I like to tell people in terms of the function in terms of event planning, are all about narrative and planning. They help articulate the vision, goals, and steps needed to bring an event to life. Think of them as a blueprint, setting the stage for everything that follows. This is also a great place to put notes from your clients as well, right? So it goes back to articulating the vision of each event, right? So those docs are going to be super handy when taking notes, when you do meet with your clients one-on-one, right? On the other hand, Canva Sheets are your go-to for tracking and status. They will help you keep an eye on all the moving parts, ensuring everything runs smoothly and stays on track. One key point to remember is that both have distinct roles, but most work together seamlessly. So docs provide the broad strokes while sheets handle the finer details. So remember, they're not different, right? It's not about choosing one over the other. It's ultimately about understanding that each feature plays a unique role in the larger system of event planning, right? So consider them as partners in your planning toolkit, right? Where do they live in the event planning HQ, right? And ultimately, they're going to live inside your active event folders, right? And, the biggest thing is you want to be able to build master templates, right? And this is pretty much what we're going to be doing, right? Canva Sheets ultimately are supposed to, we're not going to start from scratch. We're going to identify those templates, whether they're on Canva already, right, that you can browse through their template library, or it's something you build from scratch, right? But the point is to build stuff that can be duplicated from that master template folder, right? And this is going to ensure consistency and save you, the viewer, valuable time. So by having these templates readily available, we're going to be able to maintain a high level of organization and efficiency across all of our events. Again, it's a seamless process designed to make our planning as smooth as possible. Okay? Again, let's dive into these essentials in our core sheets, right? We're going to go in depth a little bit more on each of these, but just to kind of give you a brief glimpse, the client information sheet will capture all the details we need about our clients, ensuring nothing slips through the cracks, right? And this might not be in the form of a typical spreadsheet, right? It's up to you on what works best for yourself, right? Next up is the budget snapshot sheet. This is your go-to for keeping a clear picture of the financials from the big picture down to the smallest detail. Then we have the vendor contact sheet. It's your comprehensive list of who's who in your event ecosystem, right? Handy, right? And finally, the task status tracker. This sheet tracks progress, helping you stay on top of every detail from start to finish. Again, these core sheets are designed to streamline your workflow. And this is going to be a common theme throughout this class and the various other classes coming up, right? This is going to make you more efficient and organized. So let's dive a little bit deeper into it, right? Let's look at the client tracking sheet. And this is going to be an invaluable tool for organizing your client information effectively, right? So key elements to focus on include the client name and contact information, which are fundamental for maintaining that strong communication. Next, you'll want to record the event type and key preferences. These details will help you tailor each event to meet unique client expectations, right? And lastly, make use of the notes and priority section, right? This will ensure that every critical detail is captured, helping to prioritize tasks and streamline event planning, right? And remember, one row equals one client or event, keeping your short organized and efficient. And remember, the notes can be from a doc sheet that you create every time you take in a client and you're writing in just careful notes about them, right? So this sheet ultimately, think of it as the roadmap to exceptional client management. Now is the vendor management sheet. A couple things here. One, it's crucial to capture the vendor's name and category, whether they're handling catering, rentals, or AV, right? Typical stuff. This is going to help in your organization and streamlining your ultimate communications with them, right? Next, it might be wise to keep precise contact details and status, whether they're booked, pending, or confirmed. This ensures you can reach out quickly and know where everything stands at a glance, right? So you might, just to keep this in mind, because we won't go in depth with some of what these things all look like, but you might want to have a drop down for all these different vendors you work with, right? And the different categories they're a part of. That might be a good way of looking at it when building your sheet, whether it's from scratch or from a template, right? Next, keep precise contact details and status, whether they're booked, pending, or confirmed. This is going to ultimately ensure you can reach out quickly and know where everything stands at a glance. And finally, utilize the notes section, again, to document any specific details or agreements, right? This could be in the bottom left area of Canva, or it could be in literally a Canva doc, right? Whichever one. So, next is the budget sheet. It's like any other typical budget sheet, right? But the focus is on the core purpose, or is on event planning, not accounting, right? So first, categorize the budget to keep everything organized and clear. So notice how we compare estimated versus actual costs. This is crucial for financial oversight. It will allow us to track spending and make informed adjustments as needed, right? Especially when we're comparing to past events and seeing what actually worked and what didn't, right? And you'll start finding that the estimated versus the actual starts becoming even more accurate, right? Next, we're going to have the payment status. I think this is most important. This feature provides a quick snapshot of the financial obligations, helping us manage cash flow efficiently. Finally, the budget sheet offers high-level visibility. It's designed to give an overview without delving into detailed accounting, making it user-friendly for both seasoned professionals and newcomers alike. Remember, like I said before, the goal here is to support decision-making processes, not to overwhelm anyone with too much detail, right? And I also wanted to cover the structural thinking too, right? I want you to imagine this, right, in terms of the relationship. Start by considering the relationship between a client and an event. Think of the client as the starting point. Everything flows from their needs and expectations, right? Then we're going to next consider how the event connects with the vendors, right? This is where you align your event needs with the services vendors provide, ensuring everything is in ultimate success, sync, and on schedule. And finally, we look at the vendor's impact on your budget. Effective structural thinking ensures that the vendor's costs are integrated into your budget efficiently, preventing any surprises down the line. Remember, this structured approach not only keeps you organized, but also helps maintain that overall clarity throughout the planning process, right? I want you to keep remembering this. Sheets will support decisions. They're not there to overwhelm you, right? Before we go into our live building session, I want to do a little recap on what we covered last week and, what the main folders, I should say, really covered, right? So templates versus active events. Think of templates as your locked masters. They're going to be the foundation for all your work that you do within Canva. So remember, they remain untouched, preserving their original format and structure. Active events are the editable copies. These are what you work with day to day. They allow you to make the necessary adjustments without affecting the original template. So remember, if you remember from last week, we had folders for each client, right, in the active events folder. And make sure that when you do duplicate, you're also labeling it to that client name as well, right? So client or a client sheet Shiva, right? Or a client sheet blank, right? So remember, never overwrite your master templates. Instead, duplicate it and customize the copy to fit your specific needs. And ultimately, this workflow is going to save you so much time and prevent unnecessary errors. And a lot of this stuff, I just want to clarify, we are building with the free features of Canva. There is even faster ways of optimizing this and streamlining this through paid features. But just for the sake of getting people to utilize Canva and ultimately using the free features best to our abilities, all these things are being done in a free capacity, right? So just keep that in mind. So let's go into the live building session. So I will see you over there. All right, welcome back, guys. We're going to do the live demo of the setup, if you will, of these different sheets mentioned, right? So again, as a reminder, we're looking at client information sheet, budget snapshot sheet, vendor contact sheet, and task/status tracker, all right? So first up, as a recap, right? We created a folder called Event Planning HQ, and we had within that folder some subfolders, right? So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One was for active events. These are those editable copies that we make. Archive is from after you're done with those active clients, right, or active events, you're going to then transfer it to this folder, right? So you're going to transfer that whole subfolder within this folder into archive, right? This is just so we can have more organization, right? Brand foundations, I explained how we can just create a brand kit, right, for free without using this paid brand feature on Canva. And so I was able to upload my logo, my fonts, etc., right? The next thing is event templates. This is where we're going to live in just a sec. And this is going to be for all of our sheets that we're going to be searching for, right? And then internal planning assets. This is any additional piece of information that you think would be valuable for new employees that come in or consultants that you work with externally, right? So we're going to go in here and disregard this because I was playing around with it, but before we go into any folder, we're going to come here to templates, right? And this is the best way to get ideas, right? So I'm only going to do one of these sheets just for the sake of time, right? But I'm just going to type in client information sheet, okay? And remember, these crowns are for the paid version of Canva, okay? So there's two options we can go with, right? One is more of this Excel looking thing, right? Which, kind of looks like this, right? You can have different drop downs, buying stage. So we can totally do something like this, right? Or you can have something more like this, right? Where it's kind of like, just like the sheet that you create. And it has a ton of like boxes, check marks, things to circle, right? For the sake of this video, we're just going to use this list sheet, right? And the cool thing is you can come in here and you can rename all this stuff, right? So I'm just going to do client information sheet, right? And we're just going to drag this over, boom. So I can actually come in here and, this is a really great sheet to have, especially have multiple clients, right, that are in that project, right, or in that event, right? So I can say Shiva, right? I could say Mike, and blah, 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 right? I can actually do all these drop downs too. And what's cool about these drop downs is it's so easy to edit, change the color, right? And even add new options. So if you don't like the name of this, right, I can just put industry right here. And I can just put project lead, right? Boom. There we go. All right. Change the color. Maybe I want a white color. That doesn't look good. Maybe this orange color, right? Boom. I can also go in, and the cool thing is once you do for one of these, you can update all the similar drop downs, right? So now project lead's there as an option. Boom. Boom. Super cool. Now if I want to add a new option, I can just simply go here. Just say the boss, right? Boom. And again, I have that feature to update, but really quickly, we're going to change that color. I want maybe a blue, right? The boss. Boom. And there you go. I can hit update. And now that is an option, right? So cool. And you can go in and edit all of these. These are all just, simply put, editable fields, editable pieces of data, right? So this is an example of like a little breakdown in regards of doing that. And one thing I did want to show you guys, let me check. There's something I was going to show y'all. Oh, yes. I was going to show you guys the notes. Okay, so the cool thing, sorry, brain fart. The cool thing is you can do notes in two manners, right? If you want to do notes just built in to Canva, you can just do notes. And when you're having that client meeting, you can just type in all the notes here. He was really nice, a little sarcastic, right? Dot, 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 right? So whatever you want to put in notes, you can do there. Or if you want a doc, right? Right now it just shows this whole sort of full screen effect, right? But if I want to show the thumbnails, I'm going to click this button down here. Now it's going to reveal this new section, right? And this is the beauty of Canva. You can do a lot of stuff within the docs, right? So keep in mind too, before we show this, remember this is a master template. So I'm going to hit File. I'm going to hit Move. And then I'm going to go here to where my event planning HQ is. And I'm going to hit Event Templates Master. And I'm going to hit Move. Right? Move anyway. Right? So I'm going to come back here. And I'm going to come back to this folder. Right? I start it. That's why it's showing here. I'm going to come in. I'm going to look at Event Templates. And there you go. Here's the thing that we were working on, right? So, again, this is the workflow you want to do. You're going to hit Make a Copy, right? Hit Open. Copy of contact list sheet. I'm going to say Contact our client list for Shiva and UNR extension, right? Boom. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this over now to, I'm going to go back to that folder, active events, Shiva Kitasamy. Boom. Move it here. There you go. So now, my event planning HQ folder, active events, Shiva, it's right here, right? So the cool thing is now I can go in and actually edit and do all these things, right? Boom. But the cool thing I want to show you guys is we already showed the notes built in, but if you wanted docs, you can actually hit this little, add page type button right here. And this isn't just limited docs. You can do all the different, you can add within this one project, you can add all the cool different features of that Canva has to offer. But for the sake of simplicity and just organization purposes, right, we just want this to be a doc, right, because we want to be able to take notes. So, I'm using a different font. Excuse me. So I can go notes with Shiva, right? This font, just use Canva Sans. Sorry about that, guys. This is client notes, right? Dot. Right? And especially if you have brand kits already built in, it could get automatically chosen, right? But for the sake of this is how it would automatically appear for you guys if you're not using the brand kit feature built into Canva, right? So it's really plug and play, right? So you can do notes down here if you wanted to, right? Or you can create a whole doc page type, right? And start canoodling here. And the cool thing is, the more you do these, right, you can hit copy link to this page, right? And maybe I have a section for notes, right? Let's see. I'm going to just say notes, right? I'm going to rename this. And this one is Shiva's row, right? So I'm going to delete what's in here, and I'm going to paste the link. And now when I click this, it's going to take me to the doc. So super cool feature, right? Especially for organization. So that is kind of the demo that I want to show you guys. We're going to go back to the slides, all right? So I'll see you over there. All right, guys. So we were now on that live build session, right? So now coming back, we're almost done, I promise. So we're going to go over some common mistakes, right? And these often crop up in the early stages of building these event sheets, right? So first mistake that event planners typically go over, right, is overbuilding complex sheets. It's easy, I like to tell people it's easy to get carried away, but thinking that more details will make your planning foolproof, it will actually only do that sometimes, it's easy to get carried away. Sorry, my words are jumbled. It's easy to get carried away thinking that more details will make your planning foolproof, but sometimes less is more, right? The other mistake is having too many columns. And this will, I say this is a mistake because this can overwhelm you and your team, right? Making it harder to find the information you really need. So the third thing is tracking everything just in case is another pitfall. While it's tempting to prepare for every possible scenario, it can lead to too cluttered and confusing sheets. So finally, the last common mistake that I see is mixing multiple events in one sheet. And this can ultimately create chaos and lead to mistakes as it blurs the lines between different events. Remember, if there's multiple clients in that one event, that's when you would have multiple clients, right? But make sure you're not putting multiple events going on, right? So again, remember, simplicity and clarity are your allies in this whole endeavor, okay? So what does this enable, right? All the stuff we walked through and whatnot, what is this ultimately, what are the results of doing these things, right? So we're going to explore what these improvements will enable you to do. These benefits aren't just about efficiency, they're about enhancing the entire workflow experience, right? So first, faster onboarding, right? So imagine new team members getting up to speed quickly, making them productive sooner. This is ultimately going to mean you have to spend less time in training and, have more time in contributing from them, right? Next is cleaner vendor coordination. So having that streamlined communication and clear data presentation, it makes sure everyone's going to stay on the same page. And this ultimately is going to reduce misunderstandings and ultimately keep projects moving smoothly. The third thing is better budget awareness is another key advantage when you're, and I say this, when your data is organized, you're going to have a clear picture of your financial standing, allowing for ultimately informed decision making. And this is crucial for maintaining control over resources. And, I say data is key to control, right? So having that will make you have those informed decision making avenues. And finally, easier delegation. So clear and concise data means tasks can be handed off with confidence, empowering your team to take ownership and excel. And with these improvements, we're setting a strong foundation for success. And we're going to build on this here, in the coming 2 classes, right? 2 parts, if you will. So a lot of stuff that we have set up today is going to set you up for the next part, right? So first up, clean data is going to lead to easier approvals. We're really laying the strong foundation, just like what we did last week was laying the foundation for today, right? Using sheets with comments are going to mean fewer emails, right? Within internally or even externally too, right? And so this is going to streamline communications, making your workflow more efficient and less cluttered, right? And lastly, our systems will enable better client collaboration. So by having everything centralized, we can work more closely and effectively with our clients, right? And remember, these setups are designed to make our processes smoother and more integrated, right? So before we go into the next part, if you want to have some action items, right? I would say this. First, create that one client tracking sheet. And, this is going to be your master, right? So again, as a recap, this is going to help us keep all client-related information centralized and accessible, right? Next, you're going to establish a vendor management sheet. This is going to streamline, again, as a recap, this will streamline your interactions, ensure all vendor information is up to date and readily available. And finally, make sure once you create these in the master template folder, duplicate those sheets into the active event folder under the client's name, right? This step is crucial for maintaining updated records and ensuring seamless access during events. So, I'd say this, some final takeaways, right, from today's class. Remember, Canva becomes exceptionally powerful when you structure your projects well. So think of it as building a strong foundation for your creativity to flourish. Second, systems are your best friends. They will reduce stress by creating a consistent workflow. By having a clear process, you free up mental energy to focus on creativity and innovation. As event planners, that's huge, right? And finally, these foundations we've discussed today will enable growth, right? As you become more efficient, you'll find more opportunities to expand your creative reach and impact. Again, I don't want you to just be doing 4 or 5 events, right? I want you to be doing 10 to 20 events, right? And having these systems is going to help enable you to do that, right? So, again, thank you so much for today's class, or rather this part. I will see you guys in the third part. If you haven't already, check out the first part already on YouTube. All right, so see you in the next part.